home. Today we're gonna discuss about Docker Compose and how to deploy apps using Docker Compose. In earlier video, we have discussed about Docker and how to deploy a basic application using Docker. So let's start today using Docker Compose. So let's consider with the example that that you have one application which has three components, and let's consider this is your application where you have React.js, which is a UI part. You have API engine, which is designed in a Node.js, and then you have your backend database, which is PostgreSQL. So these are the three components which makes one beautiful applications, and that can be accessed via mobile applications, tablets, and web and everywhere. So now what we were earlier doing is when we need to design this kind of application, we have one VM or that one server on a cloud on premise. We install PostgreSQL, Node.js, React.js, and then we deploy our code, and then it can be used from everywhere. But in a last video, we discussed that what are the advantages of using Docker instead of that. So again, we have these three components. So with Docker, we have one more functionality, which is Docker Compose. So we can couple this all the three components and make it one. So what is the advantage of that? So let's say if I go to new design, my new design will be like this. So this is Docker Compose, which is combining these three all the Docker containers and making it one. So one of the advantage is easy to maintain this all the components which is a part of this application. Second thing is networking. Let's say my PostgreSQL, I don't want it to expose out of my Docker container, but still I want it to access by API engine. So Docker Compose is giving functionality that inside Docker Compose, they can internally interact with each other, but out of Docker Compose, I can define that, okay, these are the network ports I want to access out of Docker Compose. So that's what we have done, that we just want to expose our UI part. So we have exposed port number 80, but all other things, let's say APIs, which is 8080 port, and PostgreSQL database, which is 5432 port, which is not exposed out of Docker Compose. So that's what we have done now. So what we do next is we use this concept and from this scratch and develop one application, deploy it on Docker Compose, and then we explore how it is like working and what are the advantages we are having. So let's go and have one example. So today, that we'll design one basic application. So consider that we'll be designing our web server, which is in a Python. If you go to in earlier video, we discussed about deploying one web server using Docker. We are just using that same web server, but we are adding few more APIs, which is, that connecting to a database. So we can also explore that, okay, is it working or not? And we can also have experience of Docker Compose. So we'll have one Docker container which is PostgreSQL. Will have one Docker container which will have Python web server, and then will expose only port 8000 and will not expose port number 5432. And that's how we'll design this application. For that, just go to this GitHub repo and just clone that. I have already done that. So what I will do is I will just open that. That is Docker Compose. So if you see this, so I have two components here, which is app and database. So now there is a one more, that changes Docker Compose file. So Docker Compose file will make sure that these two are the different components, but at the end it is making one package. So we'll start with very easy concepts. So what we can do, we'll go inside DB part. So where we have Docker file. So here we are just saying that, okay, I need PostgreSQL. So just get it from Docker Hub. So this Docker file is doing nothing but just getting PostgreSQL. Okay, now in a app part, in a last Docker container also, we had exactly same application, exactly same Docker file, but only thing we added is this package, which will help us to connect PostgreSQL. So this is the exactly same thing. Okay, and if I go to main.python, so earlier we had this API, But now we had one more API which is just going and connecting to PostgreSQL. So we make sure that okay, this is connecting successfully to PostgreSQL. So now, very important part, which is Docker Compose. So in Docker Compose, what is a what is the structure of Docker Compose? So first we need to define what is the version of Docker Compose we want to use. We currently using version 3. After that, we define services. So we have services and networks. So we are saying that okay, as in a service, I have database and I have app. So for database, I am saying that okay, use Docker file from Docker DB. So it will be going here and it will be getting that Docker file. And then we are just passing these parameters that okay, this will be my database user and these all things. Next thing is I'm saying that okay, I wanna expose this port on 5432. So that's how we are saying that, okay, we want to expose this port internally. Next thing is we are saying that, okay, I have my app and I also want to have volume for that same thing as we discussed last time. So, and it is also depending on DB. So when we want to start this Docker container, so we'll see that, okay, first start database and then start API engine because API engine is having dependency on database engine because then only it can get data, then only it can connect to database. So this is how our design of Docker Compose. So now what we'll do is we'll create Docker image and then we'll start container. So for doing that, we have command here. Before that, there are few commands which we need to, that understanding of. First thing is I will go here and say, so first we need to go into folder where we have Docker Compose file. So if I do this, so I have Docker Compose file and then only this command will work. Docker Compose PS, then only this will work. And if I do Docker Compose PS, for now, I don't have anything here. It means there is no any container running inside Docker Compose, so it's not showing anything. But now we'll create container, and for that we'll use this command, which is Docker Compose build, and we are saying that okay, force build it, do not take dependency, but I will not say that, and I will just say that okay, just build my Docker Compose. So okay, so now it's going to build database first. So it will create one image for database, and second thing is it will create one image for application. So okay, database part is done, and now it's doing second part, which is creating application. So here we have done two things in a one. One thing we are saying that okay, Docker Compose up, it means start application, and before that build application. So it will be doing two things. So now we can see that okay, here application is started and database is started. So here we can see that okay, database is up and application is also off. If you want to go and check it from here, we can see that we have these two images, Docker Compose database, Docker Compose app. And if I go here, from here I can see that okay, database is also running and app is also running. So now first we'll go and open this app. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. So this is our app engine which is working. And our second thing is we just want to make sure that okay, it's able to connect to database, and from here we can also see all the logs that what is actually happening inside this. So now here it says okay, database system is ready to accept connections. So now we'll do one more API call, and that will be connect PostgreSQL. So now if I go here and make this change as this one, so now connection to Postgres successful. So now if I go and check logs from here, so it says that okay, system is ready to accept connections and connection successful. It means now internally we are able to connect to Postgres SQL from our application server. So this is how you know that we have successfully deployed our first Docker Compose application, and which is having two components, one application and one database. So if I now go to here and use few of the commands, let's say Docker Compose PS. So now it will show that, okay, I have my two components, application and database. I can also use Docker PS. It will show also same thing. And now if I say Docker Compose down, it will make both application down, first API and then database. So it understand dependency, and that's how it will work. And then it will also remove network which is currently using inside that Docker Compose. So now I will say Docker Compose up, and it will create network. It will first start database and then API engine. So this is how we can deploy very basic application using Docker Compose. So yeah, that's all. And there are few very important commands which we need to consider, like build, making up, making down. If you want to have a look on logs, you can use Docker Compose log. So this is all about Compose. You can deploy from very basic to very complex application using Docker Compose. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.